There are places on Earth where logic falls silent, and the ocean speaks in whispers no one can understand. For decades, the Bermuda Triangle has haunted the minds of sailors, pilots, and scientists alike. Over 500 ships and aircrafts have vanished here without a trace. Without a single mayday, without a single clue. Families broken, lives lost, and only questions remain. This isn't fiction. This isn't a tale passed down through myths and movies. This is real. Something is happening deep beneath those waters. And for years, the mystery stayed buried until now. A group of oceanographers, equipped with some of the most advanced submersibles ever created, dared to descend into the depths of the Bermuda Triangle. What they found was not just surprising, it was chilling. Strange magnetic fields that distort time. Unnatural crystal structures the size of skyscrapers. Eerie signals that can't be traced to any known technology. And then came the recordings. Faint voices, distant cries, rhythmic pulses echoing from the ocean floor. Voices that sounded human. Equipment malfunctioned, seasoned professionals wept in confusion, and the mission was almost aborted. But they pressed on. What they discovered defies every law of science. Evidence of a long-lost civilization buried beneath the sea, a structure older than the pyramids, technology that shouldn't exist, fossils of creatures that were never supposed to survive, and an energy signature unlike anything we've ever seen. Some believe it's a portal, others say it's a graveyard, but one thing is certain. The truth is no longer hiding. This is not just about the ocean. This is about us, our history, our future, and the secrets we were never meant to find. So hold your breath. Because once you dive in, there's no turning back. Before we dive deeper into these revelations, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We bring you the truth behind the mysteries, unfiltered, emotional, and real. This journey under the Bermuda Triangle will shake you to your core. Don't miss what comes next. The Bermuda Triangle, a place that stretches between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. A triangle on the map, and a black hole in history. For years, it was dismissed as coincidence, a myth, a sailor's nightmare. But the more we looked, the more we found patterns we couldn't ignore. And recently, science finally caught up with the mystery. What was discovered under the Bermuda Triangle could rewrite everything we thought we knew about our planet, and maybe even ourselves. This is the story of that discovery, not told in headlines, but felt. Through the lives it's touched, the sea has always held secrets, but some places seem to guard them more fiercely than others. One such place is a stretch of ocean between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, known across the world as the Bermuda Triangle. It looks harmless on a map, a calm, beautiful part of the Atlantic Ocean, but behind that beauty lies something darker, something that has taken hundreds of lives, and left behind only questions. Since the early 1900s, the Bermuda Triangle has earned a terrifying reputation. Planes vanish from the sky, ships disappear without sending distress signals, and no debris is ever found. Entire crews gone, as if they were swallowed whole by the sea. One of the earliest and most chilling cases happened in 1918. The USS Cyclops, a massive Navy ship carrying over 300 men and thousands of tons of cargo, disappeared while crossing the triangle. It didn't send a single distress call. No wreckage was ever found. It was as if the ship simply ceased to exist. Families waited for weeks, hoping for news, but nothing ever came. The ship, the crew, their stories, all lost in silence. Then came 1945. A year still remembered with dread. 5 U.S. Navy bombers, known as Flight 19, took off on a routine training mission. Experienced pilots, clear skies, full fuel tanks. Nothing was supposed to go wrong. But within hours, radio contact was lost. The last messages were haunting. One pilot said, "We don't know where we are. Everything looks strange. The ocean doesn't look right." Then Lance rescue plane sent to find them also vanished. In total, 6 aircraft and 27 men disappeared that day. Not a single piece of wreckage has ever been recovered. Even the Navy, in their official report, wrote something chilling. It was as if they flew into another dimension. Over the years, more stories followed. The SS Marine Sulphur Queen vanished in 1963, taking 39 crew members with it. A cargo ship, strong and stable, it disappeared in calm waters. No distress call, no oil slick, no lifeboats, just gone. The same year, 2 U.S. Air Force planes collided in mid-air over the triangle, but only one set of wreckage was ever found. The other, no trace. Each disappearance added to the fear. Parents warned their children. Sailors whispered legends. Pilots avoided the area. Some claimed sea monsters. Others blamed alien abductions. Some thought the triangle was cursed by ancient spirits. As strange as those theories sound, one fact remains. People kept disappearing. But it wasn't just ships and planes. In 1991, a pilot named Bruce Gernon took off from Andros Island in the Bahamas with 2 passengers. Mid-flight, he saw a strange cloud formation, circular, spinning like a tunnel. Against his better judgment, he flew through it. Inside, his instruments went crazy. The sky turned gray, the radio failed. Everything felt warped. But moments later, he exited the cloud and was stunned to find he was already near Miami, a trip that should be taken 75 minutes took only 47. He believes he passed through some kind of time distortion. Scientists were baffled. They still are. Another survivor, Rob McGregor, describes seeing a glowing mist over the water while boating through the triangle. He said the mist seemed to follow him, surrounding his boat like it was alive. He felt a deep pressure in his chest, like the ocean itself was trying to crush him. Then, it vanished. He escaped, but the fear stayed with him forever. Even satellites have recorded unusual energy patterns in the area. Electrical storms appear out of nowhere. Compass readings spin wildly. Some pilots say their instruments stop working altogether. Others report seeing strange lights beneath the waves. Slow, glowing, moving with purpose, not random, intelligent. For decades people said these stories were exaggerated, that they were just weather problems. Pilot error, mechanical failure. But how could all those accidents happen in the same place, with no warning and no trace? How could entire ships vanish without even a single floating barrel? There's something more, something deeper. The ocean keeps its secrets well, but the Bermuda Triangle seems to bury them completely. Even modern technology can't escape the triangle's grasp. In 2015, the cargo ship El Faro disappeared with 33 crew members. The ship was equipped with GPS, radios, emergency beacons, all state-of-the-art, but as it entered the triangle during a storm, all communication was lost. The ship sank without sending a single emergency signal. When wreckage was finally found, the data recorder showed something terrifying. The instruments failed just before the end. The crew was flying blind in the ocean. To this day, scientists and skeptics debate what's really happening. Some say it's rogue waves, sudden, massive walls of water that can swallow a ship whole. Others blame methane bubbles from undersea volcanoes, which can reduce water density and sink vessels in seconds. And then there are those who believe in something far stranger: portals, wormholes, or even leftover technology from an ancient, advanced civilization. But for the families of the lost, explanations don't bring peace. They want answers. They want to know where their loved ones went and why no one came back. What makes the Bermuda Triangle so terrifying is not just the disappearances, it's the silence, the unanswered questions, the stories that sound like science fiction but are rooted in truth. Real people, real ships, real planes, real lives. Gone in every corner of the world, there are mysteries. But the Bermuda Triangle is different. It pulls you in, not just with fear, but with the hope that someday, someone will uncover the truth. Because the ocean doesn't forget, it remembers everything. And maybe, just maybe, it's finally ready to reveal its secrets. And now, it has. For the first time in history, scientists have gone deeper than ever before into the heart of the triangle. And what they've found isn't just an answer to past mysteries, it's something we were never supposed to see. And what comes next will change everything. For years, scientists feared the Bermuda Triangle, not just because of what it had taken, but because of how little it gave back. No wreckage, no answers. Every attempt to explore the depths ended in silence. Equipment would fail, signals would vanish. Even satellite images came back blurred or distorted. It was as if the triangle was protecting something it didn't want us to see. But in 2024, everything changed. A team of international researchers, oceanographers, engineers, marine biologists, and physicists came together under a project called Deep Echo. It was the most expensive and technologically advanced expedition ever launched into the Bermuda Triangle, funded by a combination of government grants and private investors. This mission wasn't just about solving a mystery. It was about confronting a fear that had haunted humanity for over a century. The lead scientist, Dr. Elaine Romero, had spent her entire career studying oceanic anomalies. For her, this wasn't just science, it was personal. Her grandfather had vanished in the triangle while serving on a Navy vessel in the 1960s. No body was ever found. No goodbye. Just a hole in her family's story that never healed. She had one goal: to find out what took him. The Deep Echo team arrived in March 2024. Their ship, the Horizon Seeker, was equipped with the latest submersibles, sonar systems, and AI-driven underwater drones. These machines could go deeper than ever before, nearly 12,000 feet below the surface, and stay online even in extreme pressure and isolation. The team believed they were finally ready, but the ocean had other plans. On the first day, everything seemed calm. The sky was clear. The sea was smooth. Instruments were working perfectly. Spirits were high. But by nightfall, something changed. The temperature dropped suddenly. Clouds moved in fast, and the sea, once calm, began to swirl unnaturally. Compasses spun. GPS signals glitched. Cameras went black. It was as if they had crossed an invisible line, and the triangle had noticed. Dr. Romero stood on the deck, watching the horizon disappear into darkness. She whispered to herself, "We've entered it." That night, the team launched their first drone, a small, agile submersible named Echo. It was designed to send back real-time footage, sonar readings, and chemical analysis of the water. As it descended, the team gathered around the main screen. At first, everything was normal: sand, rock, seaweed, scattered schools of fish. But then, something strange appeared. A perfect circle, carved into the ocean floor. Not natural, not coral, not erosion. It was smooth, symmetrical, almost like a landing pad. The team exchanged looks of disbelief. "That's not made by nature," someone whispered. Dr. Romero just nodded. "Keep going." As Echo 1 continued deeper, the pressure increased. The screen flickered. For a few seconds, the video feed showed only static. Then suddenly, it returned, and what they saw next left the entire crew speechless. A massive structure, half buried in sand, shaped like a pyramid, but made of a material none of them recognized. It shimmered slightly, like it was alive. Crystalline, but not glass. Metallic, but not steel. Lights danced across its surface. Soft pulses, almost like breathing. No one spoke for several minutes. Dr. Romero finally broke the silence. "It's ancient and it's not natural." Sonar scans revealed that the structure was nearly 300 feet tall. Echo 1 circled it, capturing images from every angle. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. Not letters, not numbers, but something in between. Some looked almost familiar, like pieces of lost languages. The deeper the drone went, the more the air on the ship seemed to change. It felt heavier, denser. People began reporting headaches, nausea, and chills. The onboard medic said it might be related, but they hadn't even gone under. Then came the sound, a low hum, not loud, but deep, vibrating through the metal of the ship. They checked all equipment. Nothing was malfunctioning. It wasn't internal. It was coming from the ocean, from the structure. The sound wasn't just heard, it was felt in their bones, in their teeth. It was like a song with no melody, just emotion, grief, longing, warning. They recalled Echo 1. It didn't respond. For 12 minutes, the drone was unresponsive. No signal, no data. Then, just as suddenly, it reconnected, but the feed was different. The ocean was darker now. The structure was glowing, and something was moving near it. Not a fish, not a whale. Something larger, smooth, silent, watching. Dr. Romero leaned in close. "Are we being observed at night?" Echo 1 was recovered. Its exterior was covered in strange markings. Not scratches, not dents. Symbols, identical to the ones on the structure, as if something had pressed them into the drone like a message. The data inside the drone was partially corrupted, but what they salvaged was even more disturbing. There were flashes of what looked like cities, underwater towers, bridges, massive domes, all buried in darkness. Some images showed what seemed like statues, humanoid figures with elongated skulls and webbed hands, and in one frame there was a human face, a man, eyes closed, floating, peaceful, perfectly preserved. The team was shaken. Was this real? Was it just a glitch? They launched Echo 2 the next day, and then Echo 3. Each time, the drones went deeper. And each time, they came back with more impossible footage. More structures, more symbols, more sound. One night, the crew awoke to find their ship's lights flickering. All computers reset at the exact same moment. The clocks all read 0 o'clock, and the audio system began playing a recording, something they hadn't touched. It was the hum, except this time, it was layered with voices. Soft, whispering, speaking no known language, but filled with emotion. Some crew members reported crying without understanding why. Others became deeply anxious, as if something was calling them, pulling them. The mission was officially put on hold. The investors panicked. They wanted answers. Dr. Romero pleaded for more time. She believed they were on the edge of something historic. The discovery of a forgotten civilization, or perhaps something not of this earth. But others warned of danger. They had crossed into a space that didn't want to be disturbed. Before leaving, Dr. Romero made one final dive. This time, she went herself. Inside a manned submersible, along with 2 other scientists. They descended for 2 hours, in complete silence. No communication, no video, just sonar tracking. When they finally resurfaced, they were changed. Pale, silent, shaking. One of them refused to speak for days. The other kept repeating one phrase. "It's not dead, it's waiting." Dr. Romero said little, only this: "We are not the first, and if we keep pushing, we might be the last." What happened beneath the triangle in 2024 is still being kept quiet by official sources. Much of the data has been locked away, but some of it was leaked. Enough to prove that what the team found was real. This wasn't just an expedition, it was a confrontation with something older than humanity. And whatever it is, it's still down there, watching, waiting, remembering beneath the crushing weight of the ocean, where no sunlight reaches and life moves in silence. The 2024 expedition found something no one expected. A structure not carved by nature, not built by any known human hands, and unlike anything ever seen on Earth. It was not made of stone or metal, it was made of something else. Something that shimmered like ice but didn't melt. Something that glowed in the darkness like it was alive. It looked like crystal, but it wasn't just crystal. At first, the team didn't understand what they were looking at. The formation rose from the ocean floor like a mountain, sharp-edged and symmetrical, as if it had been designed. Its surface sparkled with strange patterns, reflecting the drone's lights like a living mirror. Some sections pulsed with a faint blue light, others remained completely black, like they were absorbing everything. even light itself. Dr. Romero stared at the screen, her voice barely a whisper. This isn't natural, this was made. Scientists are trained not to jump to conclusions. They are taught to believe in evidence, not instinct. But standing in front of something so beautiful, so impossible, the team felt something they hadn't expected. Not fear, not confusion, awe. As Echo 2 moved closer, the drone's sensors began to behave strangely. Temperature dropped rapidly near the crystal. Magnetic readings spiked and fell. Communications flickered in and out, and when the sonar tried to scan the crystal's structure, the data came back, scrambled, as if the sonar waves couldn't penetrate it, like the structure had a shield, like it was protecting itself. But the most shocking moment came when the drone's mechanical arm touched the crystal. The instant it made contact, the screen went white, a blinding flash. For 2 full seconds, no image, no sound, nothing but light. Then the feed returned. Everything was still, but something had changed. The symbols etched onto the crystal had rearranged themselves. They were different now, aligned, clean, almost like a language being written. In real time, what if it's reacting to us? One crew member asked, what if it's alive? Theories began to swirl on board. Some believed it was a power source, a forgotten energy generator built by an ancient civilization. Others whispered darker thoughts, that it was a beacon, or a prison, a containment cell, that someone or something had put it here for a reason. When samples of the material were finally retrieved and brought back to the lab, they couldn't be analyzed with traditional methods. It didn't match any known element. It didn't react to heat or pressure. It didn't shatter. Microscopes couldn't see through it. Even laser cutters failed to scratch its surface. But what really shocked the team was this. The crystal emitted energy. Not from a battery, not from any fuel. It simply glowed constantly, with no sign of stopping. And when monitored closely, the energy came in waves, rhythmic pulses like a heartbeat. The deeper they studied it, the more it seemed intelligent, and then something incredible happened. One of the researchers, Dr. Miles, played a low-frequency sound wave next to the sample. A simple test to see if vibrations would affect it. But as the sound filled the room, the crystal responded. Its glow brightened. The pulse grew faster, and faintly, very faintly. A sound echoed back, not just a vibration, a tone, a musical note, like the crystal was answering. The team stared in silence. They tried different sounds, frequencies, patterns, and each time the crystal changed. Colors shifted, light patterns moved. It was as if it understood, as if it was learning. This wasn't just a rock, this was technology. But it wasn't like any technology we knew. It didn't have wires, or circuits, or buttons. It didn't look like a machine. It looked like something organic, something grown, not built. And that raised a terrifying possibility. What if this didn't come from Earth? The ocean is deep, but Earth's history is deeper. Civilizations have risen and fallen over and over again. Some believe there were advanced cultures before us, ones wiped out by time, floods, or disasters. But what if this was something older than even that? What if this was not a remnant of our past, but a visitor from somewhere else? Some of the crew started to believe it was alien, not in the way movies show aliens, but in the purest sense of the word. Not from here. A form of intelligence that doesn't speak in words or symbols, but in energy, in light, in frequency. A life form that didn't evolve from carbon and water, but from crystal and sound. As wild as it sounded, nothing else explained it. More drones were sent, each one captured new angles of the structure. Some even found additional towers, partially buried under layers of sand and sediment. Together, they formed a massive triangular layout, stretching for miles, perfectly aligned with the edges of the Bermuda Triangle. This wasn't random, this was engineered. The crystal structures also seemed to be responsible for the strange energy fields in the area. Planes lost control, compasses spun, ships vanished without a trace. It all started making sense. These crystals, these towers were emitting powerful electromagnetic waves. They could disrupt instruments, bend radar, and possibly even distort time. The more they studied it, the more it seemed that the Bermuda Triangle wasn't a curse, but a system, a grid, a mechanism. But what was it doing? Some believed it was broken, that whatever power the crystals once held was now unstable. Others thought it was still functioning, just not for us, that it was never meant to interact with human life. But then came the question no one wanted to ask. What if it was waking up? The glowing had become stronger, the pulses more frequent. In one report, Echo 3 recorded a sudden energy spike that caused it to lose power completely. For 5 minutes, it floated lifeless in the water. When it reactivated, its camera had been turned, facing straight into one of the crystal's dark openings. And in the reflection, something moved. No one knows what it was. The image was too blurry, but it was there. Something alive, something watching. The crew became uneasy. Tension grew. Some wanted to leave. Others wanted to go deeper. Dr. Romero stood between both sides, torn between her fear and her duty. Then, during one late-night transmission review, the audio team found something hidden in the frequencies coming from the crystals. At first it sounded like noise, static, but when slowed down and filtered, it formed a pattern. A repeating tone like Morse code, but the message was just one word, played over and over again, remember? Some cried when they heard it, others grew pale. What did it mean? Remember what? A warning? A memory? A call for help? Or a reminder of something we were never supposed to forget? Suddenly, the legend of Atlantis didn't seem like fantasy. The lost city beneath the waves. A civilization advanced far beyond its time. Could these crystals be all that remains? Or were they the reason it fell? The expedition ended soon after. Too many questions. Too many risks. But the data was undeniable. Crystals lie beneath the Bermuda Triangle. Not natural. Not explained. Still functioning. Still pulsing. Still waiting. And whatever their purpose is, it's not finished yet. There are things in this world that we can see, yet they move everything around us. Gravity, radiation, magnetism, silent forces, invisible to the eye, but strong enough to shift the world. And under the waters of the Bermuda Triangle, something is disturbing these forces in ways science still cannot fully explain. From the very beginning, explorers noticed something strange. Compasses would spin out of control, GPS systems would go blank, aircraft navigation would lead pilots in circles. Some would end up hundreds of miles off course without ever knowing how they got there. Something was messing with direction. Something was bending time and space. The team from the 2024 Deep Echo expedition had prepared for this. Their equipment was the best in the world. Triple tested, shielded, built to survive any environment. But none of that mattered inside the triangle. Within minutes of arriving, their digital compasses began to fluctuate. First by a few degrees, then by dozens. In one case, a compass pointed south while the ship moved north. Their ship's computers insisted they were going east, while the stars above said they were going west. It was as if the triangle had erased the very idea of direction, and it didn't stop there. One night, the crew launched Echo 4, a drone program to follow a straight path for 1 mile. It was a simple mission, down, forward, back up, a task that should have taken 45 minutes, but Echo 4 didn't return in 45 minutes. It came back in 9. At first they thought it had malfunctioned, but when they downloaded the footage, their hands began to shake. Because the video feed lasted the full 45 minutes. The drone had traveled the full distance. It had captured 45 minutes of data, but in real time, it returned in just 9. Somehow, time had changed. It had folded, compressed, or bent around the machine. The moment it entered that section of the ocean, the clock stopped following the rules. It wasn't just a fluke. It happened again and again. Watches slowed. Clocks on the ship didn't match atomic timers on the satellites. In some cases, personal timepieces showed entire hours missing. One crew member swore he had taken a 10-minute nap, but when he woke up, he had been asleep for nearly 2 hours. Another said he saw stars shift positions in the sky. In real time, the team realized they weren't just dealing with strange magnetism, they were dealing with time warps. Something beneath the water, likely the crystal structures discovered earlier, was affecting not just direction, but reality itself. Electromagnetic fields were twisting time, creating bubbles where everything slowed, or accelerated. Dr. Romero described it like this. Imagine walking into a room where time flows differently. You take one step, and outside, an hour passes. Or maybe nothing passes at all. The Bermuda Triangle is full of these invisible rooms. We just can't see the doors. The deeper the drones went, the worse the interference became. In one dive, Echo 5 recorded footage that didn't match anything the team had seen before. Coral reefs where no coral could grow. Fish swimming backward. Clouds of bubbles that never rose. Everything seemed off. As if nature itself was struggling to make sense. One video showed a sea turtle gliding slowly past the camera, but when played in reverse, it moved exactly the same. Every flap of its flippers mirrored, every motion symmetrical, as if time didn't care which way it flowed. The scientists were stunned. This wasn't just distortion, this was control. Something was manipulating the environment on a fundamental level, and then came the silence. Echo 6 disappeared mid-div, no signal, no beacon, gone. Then 16 hours later, it returned. It floated to the surface with a full data log, undamaged. But here's the strange part. Its memory recorded only 4 minutes of dive time, the rest, completely blank, as if it had skipped time entirely, or worse, been removed from it. Inside the drone, one of the engineers found something bizarre, a small, circular burn mark near the CPU, shaped like a spiral, not a short circuit, not from heat, more like it had been branded. No one knew how it got there. The casing was sealed. No one touched it, but the symbol looked eerily similar to the ones carved into the crystal structures. Was this communication? Or a warning? The team began to experience symptoms too. Some reported ringing in their ears, others had sudden nosebleeds. One man collapsed without warning, and claimed he had just seen his own childhood in his mind, like a memory that wasn't his. It was like I was inside a dream, he said, but it wasn't mine. Magnetic tests were run repeatedly. The readings were wild, sometimes off the scale. The ship's magnetic compass would shift even when they were anchored. Portable meters placed in different parts of the ship gave conflicting readings. One pointed north, another pointed west. A third spun in a slow, endless circle. They tried shielding, They tried recalibrating. Nothing worked. The conclusion was terrifying but clear. The Bermuda Triangle disrupts Earth's magnetic field, not randomly, but with purpose. Natural magnetic anomalies happen in the world, near the poles, near volcanic zones, but they are predictable. What was happening here was different. The shifts followed no pattern, and worse, they seemed to react to the crew's actions. Every time they approached the crystal structures, the interference grew stronger, equipment failed faster. Time began to blur. There were moments when even the cameras began to distort reality. One frame showed a clear image of the ocean floor, and the next, a swirl of lights, shapes, and shadows. When slowed down and analyzed, some of those frames showed images that shouldn't be there. Human shapes, faces, places, buildings that didn't exist. The crew tried to stay logical, to stay calm, but fear was growing. One night, the emergency alarm rang. All of the ship's compasses had aligned in one direction. Not north, not east, not toward land, but downward, straight into the ocean. Like something below was pulling the Earth's very core toward itself. The lights dimmed. The water beneath the ship began to swirl. A vortex, slow, steady, and completely silent, appeared beneath them for just 19 seconds, and then it vanished. No one slept that night. In the morning, Dr. Romero made a decision. She ordered all further exploration suspended. The risks had grown too high. They had already bent the edge of reality, and she feared that if they went further, they might fall in. Her final report contained this sentence: "We have not just discovered a new place, we have discovered a new law of physics, or perhaps the absence of one." Later analysis of the data confirmed that the Bermuda Triangle contains magnetic anomalies far beyond anything found elsewhere on Earth. These fields are strong enough to pull airplanes off course, disable ship engines, and most mysteriously create pockets where time itself may no longer flow the way we understand it. Some scientists now believe that the region acts like a lens warping space and time, the way gravity bends light. Others say it's a natural wormhole, a door, a fracture in Earth's reality. And a few believe it's artificial, that it was built to observe, to protect, or perhaps to trap. Because if you can change direction, you can make someone lost. If you can change time, you can make someone forgotten. And if you can do both, you can make them disappear forever. Sound travels differently underwater. It becomes slower, heavier, deeper. Down there, in the black silence of the ocean floor, noise isn't just sound, it's presence. A whisper can feel like a roar. A single echo can seem eternal. And what the Deep Echo team recorded in the Bermuda Triangle didn't sound like anything the ocean was supposed to make. It started on the third day of the expedition. The team had lowered a special piece of equipment called a hydrophone, a high-tech underwater microphone that can pick up even the quietest sounds from the deep. The plan was simple: record ambient noise to understand the sea life and currents near the crystal structures. They expected to hear whales, fish, and natural underwater movement. But what they got was something else entirely. The first sound was soft, barely a murmur. Like the ocean was breathing, a slow rhythmic rise and fall, not mechanical, not weather-related, just breathing. At first they thought it was the ship's engine echoing through the water, but they shut down all power, and the sound remained. It came from beneath the ship, from the exact location of the crystal towers. Then came the second sound, a low, humming tone. Not a natural vibration, but a perfect musical pitch. It held steady for 13 minutes before slowly fading, but the strange part, the hum wasn't just heard, it was felt. The crew described it like standing next to a speaker, even though there was no speaker. Their chests vibrated. Their teeth buzzed. Some said they felt the tone inside their skulls. The ship's medical officer reported elevated heart rates and signs of mild anxiety across the crew. No one had spoken a word, yet everyone felt the same thing: unease, like being watched, like something was near, but hiding. And then, the voices came. One night, while reviewing recordings from the hydrophone, audio technician Maya Green froze. Her eyes widened. Her hand slowly reached for the volume knob. What she played made everyone in the room stop breathing. It was a voice, faint, muffled, distant but human. A whisper stretched by the water, tangled and static. The words were unclear, but the tone was unmistakable. It sounded like someone crying for help, repeating the same phrase over and over, a broken ghostly plea. Some heard, "Don't leave me." Others heard, "I'm still here." The room fell silent. No one spoke. Goosebumps covered every arm. For the first time, even the scientists, the ones trained to stay calm and rational, looked afraid. They replayed the clip dozens of times, slowed it down, cleaned up the noise. The voice became clearer, but more disturbing. It was male, shaky, weak, drowning in fear, as if it came from someone trapped deep below. But the ocean was empty. There was no one else around. Dr. Romero looked at the spectrogram, the visual shape of the sound. Her hands trembled, because mixed within the sound wave was a pattern, almost like a code. The same spiral-like symbols carved into the crystals were now appearing in sound form. How was that possible? The next night, the voices changed. This time, the recording was louder. There were more voices, layered, intertwined. Some male, some female, some sounded old, others young. None of them matched any known language, but somehow, the emotions did. Pain, sorrow, desperation. One voice, in particular, stood out. It was soft, gentle, almost like a lullaby, but the moment it played, several crew members began to cry. Not because of the words, they didn't understand them, but because of the feeling. It was like being pulled back into a memory they didn't know they had. Something lost, something forgotten. Some broke down completely. One woman had to be sedated after claiming she had seen her mother's face in the water. Her mother had died 10 years earlier. She swore she heard her voice in the recording, whispering her childhood nickname. No one could explain it, but the pain in her eyes was real. From that point on, they called it the voice field. Every time they dropped the hydrophone near the crystals, voices came, always different, always emotional. Some spoke in tones like singing, others chanted. One recording lasted only 4 seconds, but sent to researchers into panic attacks. They claimed they heard their own names whispered back to them. These weren't hallucinations. These were captured sounds, real, measurable, reproducible, and it wasn't just voices. In one recording they picked up a strange rhythm, like a heartbeat but not from a human or animal. It echoed in perfect intervals. Fast, then slow, then fast again. Like a signal trying to match something, trying to connect. Dr. Romero sent the data to several labs for analysis. All of them confirmed that the sounds were authentic. No radio interference, no technical faults. The only conclusion? These sounds were coming from the depths, and they were not natural. A theory began to form. What if the crystal structures were not just energy sources or buildings, but memory holders? What if they had recorded voices, emotions, moments, echoes of people who had disappeared into the triangle, and worse? What if they were trying to send them back? Suddenly, all the disappearances over the years began to feel different. They weren't just accidents, they were absorptions. People taken into something. A machine, a field, a consciousness that held on to pieces of them. Their words, their fears, their last thoughts. The hydrophones continued to pick up new voices. Sometimes they were angry, other times they were pleading. In one terrifying recording, the voices were screaming, not in words, just raw terror. Screams that sounded far too human, too real. One engineer, after listening to it, refused to go near the ocean again. He quit the mission the next morning. The last voice they recorded was the most chilling of all. It didn't come in a whisper. It didn't cry or beg. It spoke clearly, calmly. "We remember you," just 4 words. But enough to paralyze the team with fear. Who said it? What did it mean? Was it speaking to them, or to someone else? Dr. Romero ended the audio tests the next day. She knew they had touched something too deep, too emotional, too alive. The final analysis of the sounds showed something unbelievable. A consistent frequency was found beneath the human voices, one that matched no natural source, but pulsed in harmony with the crystal towers. Meaning, the voices and the crystals were connected. What if the crystals were not just tools, but vessels, containers of consciousness? What if the Bermuda Triangle was not a location, but a system, preserving what it had taken, keeping pieces of people locked in time, in sound, in memory? And what if, after all these years, it wanted to be heard? The ocean holds many secrets, but none so terrifying as the voices that cry out from the deep. The ocean is Earth's greatest mystery. It hides its past beneath layers of darkness, pressure, and silence. And nowhere is that mystery more alive than in the Bermuda Triangle. A place that seems to protect something ancient, something lost, something that refuses to be forgotten. When the 2024 expedition sent back its early scans of the ocean floor, no one expected to find man-made patterns. They were looking for natural formations, coral beds, volcanic ridges, maybe wreckage from lost ships, but what they found instead shook the foundation of everything they thought they knew. The images revealed something buried deep in the sand, massive geometric shapes, perfectly aligned, too perfect to be natural. These were not random chunks of rock or collapsed seabeds. These were structures, walls, roads, foundations, pillars. And in the center, a huge circular layout, nearly 500 feet wide, with symmetrical design carved into its shape. It looked like the remains of a city, but not like anything from known history. It was more advanced. The precision was beyond what even today's machines could easily create under such conditions. At first, the scientists refused to call it a city. They called it a possible settlement, or a complex of unknown origin. But as the divers descended, as sonar and 3D scans became clearer, the truth became harder to ignore. This wasn't just a city. This was a lost civilization, one that had lived and thrived long before any known empire ever existed. The structures showed signs of intelligent planning. Some rooms were interconnected through narrow tunnels. Stairways still led to different levels of the ruins. Symbols were etched into walls, swirling shapes, repeating patterns, spirals that matched those seen on the mysterious crystals found earlier. It was as if everything was connected. Archaeologist Dr. Lina Torres described her first dive to the ruins as standing inside a ghost's memory. The silence of the deep, the eerie stillness of the stones, the overwhelming feeling that someone had once lived there. It was enough to make even the most seasoned scientists weep, and she did. Underwater, inside her diving helmet, she cried, not from fear, but from a deep, aching sadness. The sadness of loss, of something sacred that had been buried for thousands, maybe tens of thousands of years. The deeper they explored, the more evidence they found. Ceramic shards that didn't match any known culture. Tools made of metals that hadn't yet been discovered by ancient civilizations. One artifact resembled a compass, but it reacted to magnetic fields in ways no modern compass should. It spun, stopped, then pointed not north, but directly toward the heart of the crystal towers. What kind of people could create such things? They began calling them the Forgotten Ones. Not because they were ignored, but because they had been erased. Lost so deeply in time that no history book, no legend, not even myth remembered them. It was as if the earth itself had buried their memory beneath the waves. But why? Was it a natural disaster that wiped them out? A flood? An earthquake? Or something else? Some team members believed the civilization may have discovered powerful energy through the crystals. An energy source not of fire or electricity, but something we still don't understand. A source that allowed them to power their structures, to manipulate magnetism, even time. But with power comes danger. What if this ancient city wasn't destroyed by nature, but by its own creation? A miscalculation. A moment when they went too far. When they tapped into a force they couldn't control. A force that swallowed them whole. And what if the Bermuda Triangle is the scar left behind? A place where time, space, and physics were permanently changed. Still echoing with the technology of a fallen world. There's an old legend among Caribbean fishermen. They speak of a city beneath the sea. A shining city with glowing stones and people who spoke in music, not words. Most dismissed it as folklore. But now, standing above these ruins, it didn't feel like a fairy tale anymore. It felt like truth. Finally uncovered, one chamber deep in the ruins was unlike the others. Perfectly preserved. It had no doors, no windows, but it had a massive circular platform in the center. Above it, fragments of crystal still floated, held in place by unknown forces. They were not connected by wires or supports. They simply hovered, pulsing softly, as if breathing. Dr. Romero believed this was their control room. The core of their power, the heart of the civilization. Inside this room, strange things happened. Compasses spun wildly. Cameras failed. One diver, upon entering, said he heard voices whispering, not through his radio, but directly into his mind. He described it as a conversation without words, a message made of emotion, of memory. He returned to the surface, shaking and pale, whispering only one thing, they're still here. The team was divided. Some wanted to keep exploring. Others felt it was time to leave, that they had touched something sacred or cursed. But the evidence was clear. A civilization had once existed in the Bermuda Triangle, one that had built cities beneath the sea, one that understood the secrets of magnetism, sound, and energy better than we do today. And then, it vanished. But it didn't disappear without a trace. Their ruins still hum with power. Their voices still echo in the deep. And their warnings, if we can understand them, may save us from repeating their fate. Because maybe this wasn't just a discovery, maybe it was a mirror, a glimpse into who we once were, and what we might become. The team named the site Atlantica 1, though no one knows if it's truly connected to the legend of Atlantis. Maybe it is. Maybe it's even older. Maybe Atlantis was just one name among many, passed down from a truth buried too deep for memory. But now, it is rising again. And the question that haunts everyone who's seen it is simple and terrifying. What else is still down there? There are places on this planet where nature breaks its own rules, where the laws of biology, evolution, and science don't seem to apply. And the Bermuda Triangle is one of those places. When the 2024 expedition team sent their submersibles deeper into the newly discovered ruins, they were not just exploring broken walls and lost cities. They were entering a realm untouched by human presence, a world that had remained hidden for thousands, maybe millions of years. And within that darkness, something moved. At first it was just a blur, something large, too fast for the cameras to track. The scientists thought it was just shadows or a trick of the water. But then the motion happened again and again, circling the submarine like it was being watched. A slow, calculated movement, not the curiosity of a regular sea creature, but something else. Then came the first clear image, and it took everyone's breath away. A creature floated in front of the camera, glowing softly with blue and green light. It looked like a jellyfish, but it was enormous, nearly the size of a small car. Its body wasn't transparent. It shimmered like crystal. Its tentacles moved slowly, almost like they were alive with thought. But what truly shocked the team were the shapes pulsing inside its body. Geometric patterns, circles, spirals, lines. It didn't just look alive. It looked designed. Marine biologist Dr. Soren was the first to name it. The geome, a glowing geometric plume. She said it resembled nothing on Earth's evolutionary timeline. No known jellyfish, octopus, or fish matched its biology. It seemed to be from a different branch of life altogether. Then came more creatures. Some looked like deep-sea eels, but with metallic skin that reflected light like mirrors. One had 4 glowing eyes and no visible mouth. Another resembled a giant squid, but its arms bent in ways no bone or muscle should allow. It didn't swim with force, it hovered, like it was controlling gravity itself. The divers were overwhelmed. These weren't just rare animals, these were impossible beings, creatures that shouldn't exist, not in any scientific book, not in any fossil record. One creature was especially terrifying. It was long, snake-like, with ridged armor all over its body. It had no face, no fins, but when it moved, the water around it shimmered like heat waves, as if it was warping space. And when it passed close to the submersible, the cameras glittered, the lights dimmed, the temperature sensors spiked. It wasn't just a creature, it was an anomaly. The team started noticing a pattern. All these creatures stayed near the ruins. They never strayed far. It was as if they were guarding it, or perhaps drawn to it. Some moved in formation, others swam in slow spirals above the crystal structures, like they were part of a ritual. Dr. Sorin made a terrifying suggestion. What if these creatures didn't evolve here? What if they were created here? The thought chilled the entire team, because if that was true, then this wasn't just an ancient civilization with technology. It was a civilization capable of bioengineering, of creating life. And these sea creatures were their legacy, their guardians, or maybe even their experiments. One of the most haunting moments came when the submersible encountered a creature that didn't swim. It hovered, motionless, just above a collapsed dome. It had a humanoid shape, with long limbs and a head too large for its thin body. Its skin was pale blue, almost glass-like. It didn't react to lights or sound, but when the sub-spotlight touched its face, its eyes opened, huge, dark, reflective, and it vanished. Not swam away, not fled. It simply dissolved into the water, like it had never been there. The footage was reviewed hundreds of times. Experts argued over it. Some said it was an illusion, others believed it was a projection, or worse, a form of life that exists in a different state of matter, something between solid and energy, a being that had learned to manipulate water, light, and perception. But the team that was there, they knew what they saw, and they would never forget it. Back on the ship, researchers examined the audio, temperature, and pressure data from the encounters. They found more anomalies, frequencies in the water that matched no natural source, patterns in how the creatures moved, almost like choreography, as if they were following signals or instructions. What scared the scientists most wasn't just the creatures themselves, it was the feeling, the sense that these beings weren't just living in the triangle. They were meant to be there, placed there, like pieces on a board, like guardians of a truth buried in the dark, and perhaps they were watching back. At night, the crew on the ship reported strange sounds from the ocean, low hums, rhythmic pulses. Some heard whispers in the sonar, voices just out of reach. A diver who had gone too deep claimed he saw eyes in the dark, dozens of them, all staring, but not with hunger. With warning, he said it felt like being told, go no further. One by one, even the most skeptical team members began to feel the same thing, that they were not alone in this ocean, that the triangle wasn't just home to old legends, it was still very much alive. Some wanted to capture one of the creatures, bring it up, study it, but Dr. Serene refused. These beings belong to the deep, she said. To disturb them would be to disturb the past, and the past is watching. There's a power in the Bermuda Triangle that we still don't understand. It's not just magnetic or physical, it's biological, alive, a force that has created, preserved, and possibly protected life that has never been touched by human hands. And now, we have seen it, not on a screen, not in dreams, but in real water, through real eyes, creatures that don't match evolution, that rewrite what it means to be alive, beings that suggest Earth's story is far older and far stranger than we ever imagined. And for every creature we saw, how many more are still hiding, deeper in the abyss, waiting, watching? Maybe they are warnings from the past, maybe they are messengers of what's to come, or maybe they are the last survivors of a world long lost, a world that vanished into the triangle, but left its children behind. And now, as the surface world wakes up to these discoveries, one question hangs in the air like mist above the waves. Are we ready for what lies beneath? When it looks back at us? After days of diving into the mysterious ruins under the Bermuda Triangle and encountering strange creatures that defied all logic, the team was ready to return to the surface with their findings. But just as they began to ascend, something happened, something none of them could explain, and none of them would ever forget. The ocean around the submersible began to hum, not like the quiet hum of an engine or machine, but a deep, vibrating tone that they could feel in their bones. The equipment on board began to flicker, and the lights dimmed for a second, then came back. Every crew member looked at each other in silence, their expressions filled with confusion and fear. Suddenly, a wave of energy passed through them. It wasn't visible. It wasn't something they could see with their eyes, but they all felt it like a shock wave of pressure and warmth that moved through the water, through the submarine, and through their own bodies. It didn't hurt, but it left them breathless, like they had just passed through something ancient and alive. In the control room on the surface ship, the instruments went wild. The sonar showed a sudden spike and impossible surge of energy coming from deep beneath the ruins. The temperature rose slightly, but the real anomaly was the magnetic field. The ship's compass spun wildly, and backup digital systems failed for a moment. It was as if something had turned on beneath the ocean, something massive. The pulse lasted only a few seconds, but the impact was undeniable. It was a burst of energy, strong and focused, unlike anything the team had ever seen. It wasn't caused by underwater volcanoes or shifting tectonic plates. This was something else, something intelligent. Dr. Lena, the lead geophysicist, stared at the readings in disbelief. "This isn't natural," she whispered. "This is intentional." The data was sent to labs around the world. Within hours, scientists from NASA, NOAA, and other international agencies confirmed that the energy pulse was not from any known natural source. The pattern of the pulse was too precise. It had rhythm, symmetry almost like a signature. Some compared it to a sonar ping, others to a coded message. But what truly puzzled them was the frequency. The energy pulsed in a range that human bodies could feel but not hear. It seemed to be designed for biological reception, not mechanical, as if it was meant to be felt, not just recorded. Divers who were inside the sub reported strange sensations immediately after the pulse. Some felt dizzy, others experienced vivid memories. One diver said she heard whispers in her mind, voices speaking in a language she didn't understand, but somehow, she felt the meaning. Another wept without knowing why, overwhelmed by a sudden, deep sadness. It was like the energy had reached inside them and touched something hidden. This changed everything. What if this energy pulse wasn't just power but communication? What if the structures beneath the Bermuda Triangle weren't just ruins but machines? Ancient machines still operating on some level, responding to the presence of the team, reacting to human contact for the first time in thousands of years. The idea was terrifying. If true, it meant that the triangle wasn't just dangerous because of nature, it was dangerous because of purpose. Because something had been activated. As the days passed, the energy pulses began to repeat. At first, they came every 24 hours. Then, every 12. Then they started syncing with the moon's position. Researchers discovered that the pulses were strongest during lunar alignments, especially during full moons. This connection between celestial movement and underwater energy hinted at a technology far beyond anything humans have ever created. Was this an ancient energy system powered by the moon itself? Or something even more mysterious, something that used Earth's own natural rhythms as a power source? The deeper the team went, the more they realized they were standing on the edge of understanding something far bigger than they imagined. The ruins weren't just buildings, they were nodes. Points in a massive energy grid stretching across the ocean floor. A system built long before modern history, using principles of magnetism, sound, and light that we are only beginning to understand. Dr. Lena proposed a wild theory, one that chilled the room to silence. What if the Bermuda Triangle is not a trap, she asked. What if it's a gate? The energy, she explained, could be used to open something not physically, but dimensionally. The magnetic disturbances, the disappearing ships, the missing planes, what if they weren't being destroyed, but transported? Could the triangle be a crossing point between realities, between timelines, between our world and another? The crew listened, eyes wide with fear and awe. They had come to study the ocean. Now, they were standing in the shadow of a doorway. In the days following the pulse, even the ocean life began to behave strangely. Schools of fish vanished from sonar. Dolphins were seen swimming in chaotic circles. Whales that had never been spotted in the area suddenly appeared, only to vanish without a trace. It was as if all life in the area could feel the shift in the water, as if the sea itself was holding its breath. The energy was building. Back on land, people began to report strange phenomena along coastlines near the triangle. Unusual lights in the sky, radio signals dropping in and out. Some even reported hearing hums or low tones coming from the ocean late at night. It was spreading. Something had changed beneath the surface, and the pulse was the first warning. For centuries, we have feared the Bermuda Triangle because we did not understand it. We blamed nature, storms, and superstition. But now, we were facing a new truth. The triangle may be powered by a force not from our time, or even our world, and that force had just awakened. The final question that haunted every mind on board was the most chilling of all. Did we activate something that was meant to remain asleep? And if we did, what happens next? As scientists, explorers, and military officials analyzed the energy pulse and its effect on both the environment and the people involved, one haunting question began to take root. What exactly had been discovered under the Bermuda Triangle? Was it merely a natural phenomenon that we had misunderstood for centuries? Or was it something far more deliberate, something built, something waiting? Behind closed doors, theories began to flood in. Most were quickly dismissed, but some were so compelling, so terrifyingly plausible, that they refused to be silenced. These weren't science fiction fantasies. These were ideas backed by data, emotion, and centuries of mystery that suddenly made sense in the light of what had just been uncovered. The first theory was the most hopeful and, yet the most impossible. It proposed that the ruins beneath the ocean were remnants of a portal, a kind of stargate or interdimensional bridge that could transport objects or even people across vast distances in space or time. It seemed too fantastic to believe, but evidence was strangely in favor of it. The energy pulses, the magnetic shifts, the disappearances of planes and ships that left no wreckage. What if they weren't accidents, but transitions? What if those people had been moved, not destroyed? Dr. Lena's team went back to the historical records with this new lens. They reanalyzed flight paths and shipping routes that ended in mystery. They cross-referenced them with celestial alignments and underwater seismic activity. The patterns they found were chilling. Many of the disappearances occurred during very specific magnetic surges, ones that aligned almost perfectly with known pulse intervals detected from the underwater structures. The theory was no longer just a possibility, it was becoming a map. But if the Bermuda Triangle held a portal, who built it, and why? That led to the second theory, one much darker. Some believed the energy source wasn't a gateway, but a weapon, one that had been created by an ancient, now lost civilization. The underwater structures were too precise to be ruins by accident. Their geometry, their orientation to stars, the materials they were made of, none of it matched anything natural or random. If this was a machine, and not a temple or city, then what was its function? Perhaps the civilization that built it didn't vanish by disaster. Perhaps they were experimenting with powers they couldn't control, magnetic energy, time manipulation, or even quantum teleportation, and it destroyed them. And perhaps, in some buried, forgotten way, the triangle itself was the fallout of their mistake. A malfunctioning, unstable force field that occasionally activated, pulling anything nearby into its unknown mechanism. This wasn't just fantasy. Similar theories existed around ancient sites across the world: Puma, Punku, Mohenjo-Daro, the Great Pyramid, each place filled with mystery, magnetism, and unexplained deaths. Was the Bermuda Triangle just another relic from a time when humanity, or something before humanity, held technology far beyond what we understand? The third theory was not about function but intention, and it was the most disturbing of all. What if the Bermuda Triangle wasn't a portal? Not a weapon, but a warning. What if the pulses were not calls but alarms? The pattern of energy was unlike anything recorded before. It repeated like a language. It grew stronger with time, and synchronized with moon cycles, tides, and possibly even human activity. One scientist described it as a heartbeat. Another said it felt like the sigh of something enormous. And yet another, an audio technician from the team who reviewed the deep-sea recordings, claimed he could hear what sounded like chanting buried inside the vibrations. The idea began to take hold. The triangle wasn't meant to be discovered. What if the people who built the machines buried them on purpose, hiding them beneath miles of salt water and stone to keep them away from the surface world? And what if our interference, the dives, the sonar, the excavation, had triggered a defense mechanism? What if we weren't uncovering something, but disturbing something that was never meant to be touched? This theory gained momentum when people around the globe began reporting dreams. Yes, dreams. Ever since the energy pulses began, hundreds of individuals, some near the triangle, some thousands of miles away, reported having vivid, recurring dreams of water, stone, and endless light. Some dreamed of being pulled into the ocean by unseen forces. Others saw ancient cities glowing with blue energy, and some dreamed of voices speaking to them in pain or in warning. The phenomenon spread fast. It was dismissed by many as mass hysteria or media influence, but the people who had these dreams, young and old, scientists and civilians, shared haunting similarities in detail. They saw structures they had never seen before, described symbols that matched those etched into the ruins, and felt overwhelming emotions of loss, fear, and urgency, as if something beneath the ocean was trying to speak to them. Now, questions began to burn in everyone's minds. If the triangle is a portal, where does it lead? If it's a weapon, who or what is it protecting us from? And if it's a warning, what is coming that we were never supposed to face? The international scientific community grew divided. Some demanded that all dives and research cease immediately, afraid that more interference might trigger a global catastrophe. Others insisted that this was humanity's greatest discovery, and that stopping now would be a crime against science, truth, and history. Even governments became involved. Military ships were quietly deployed around the triangle. Satellites were redirected to scan the region 24/7. Submarines patrolled the depths in secret. No one said why, but everyone understood. Something had changed. Something had awakened, and the world was watching. Dr. Lena, emotionally drained but driven by a need to find meaning, gave a press statement. Her voice shook, but her message was clear. We don't know what we found, but it's powerful, ancient, and alive in some way we cannot understand. We must proceed with care, with respect, and with the humility to know that we may not be ready for what comes next. She paused, tears in her eyes. Sometimes, when you open a door, you find something waiting on the other side. That single sentence echoed across social media, headlines, and news broadcasts. People began to fear not the sea itself, but what had been locked beneath it for centuries. The triangle was no longer just a place of mystery, it was a message, etched into the earth, humming with ancient power. In the quiet corners of laboratories and government bunkers, new theories began forming. The most frightening one yet suggested that the Bermuda Triangle was not alone, that it was one node in a network of similar ancient structures scattered across the planet, the Devil Sea in the Pacific, the South Atlantic Anomaly, and other magnetic hotspots. If they were all connected, and if the energy pulse was just the beginning, then perhaps we had activated something much larger than a single machine, a global system, built for a reason no one could yet understand. Now the team faced the most difficult decision of their lives. Do they return to the ruins, to explore further, to risk everything in the name of truth? Or do they let it rest, seal the records, and leave the triangle to its silence, its shadows, and its secrets? As the sun set over the ocean, and the stars lit up the sky above, the sea remained still. But deep below, something watched, something waited, and the only thing more terrifying than what we had discovered was what we hadn't discovered yet. For years, the Bermuda Triangle had been treated like a legend, a place people whispered about, joked about, or used to explain the unexplainable. It was something between a mystery and a myth. But when scientists finally uncovered undeniable evidence of strange technology, unnatural energy pulses, and ancient ruins beneath its depths, the question no longer was, what was under the water? It became something far more chilling. Why were we never told? The truth is, the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle was not just avoided, it was actively hidden. And the reason why is more complicated than anyone imagined. Long before the 2024 expedition, governments, navies, and intelligence agencies had already known that something unusual was happening in that part of the ocean. There were classified flight logs, sonar readings, and internal reports from military pilots who experienced compass failures, time distortions, and equipment malfunctions. Ships vanished without distress calls. Planes disappeared off radar without any trace. But rather than investigate in public, these incidents were quietly swept away. Families of the missing were often told their loved ones were lost at sea, with little detail. Official records were sealed, and the triangle remained a story, not a scandal. Why? Why would anyone keep such a terrifying truth hidden? The answer begins with fear. Not fear of the unknown, but fear of mass panic. If the public had known that parts of our world were influenced by forces we couldn't understand, couldn't stop, and couldn't protect against, what would have happened? There would have been chaos. People would stop flying. International trade would halt. Tourism would collapse. And more dangerously, conspiracy theories would run wild, breaking trust in every institution from science to government. The world wasn't ready for a truth so big, a truth that shattered the belief that Earth was fully mapped, fully explored, fully understood. The truth would mean accepting that human beings are not the most advanced force on this planet, that perhaps we are walking on top of buried civilizations more powerful than anything we've built, that perhaps our oceans hide more than fish and coral, they hide secrets we were never meant to find. There was another reason, even darker. Control. Once whispers of unusual magnetic energy and underwater ruins began surfacing in old naval documents. Several powerful nations quietly formed secret programs to monitor the Bermuda Triangle, not to shut it down but to study it. These programs weren't run by oceanographers, they were run by defense departments. Because if there truly was alien technology, or an ancient power source, or even a portal hidden under the ocean, then it could become the most valuable weapon in human history. Control it, and you could control time, movement, or even energy itself. Wars wouldn't be fought with bombs but with distortions in space, with entire aircraft vanishing without warning. And so, instead of telling the world, these governments told no one. They built deep-sea surveillance systems. They installed underwater monitoring devices disguised as research tools. They warned civilian ships away from the triangle using subtle navigational changes. And anyone who got too close, whether a sailor, a diver, or a curious tourist, was quickly discouraged, redirected, or ignored altogether. People who worked on these secret programs often lived with guilt. Some leaked small details to journalists or researchers, but their stories were always buried under headlines of politics, sports, or celebrity drama. Even when some whistleblowers tried to speak up, they were discredited, threatened, or silenced. They were told the same thing. If the public finds out, it could destroy everything. But perhaps the most painful reason why the truth was hidden was hope. Some scientists believed that what lay beneath the triangle wasn't dangerous, it was a gift. A gift left behind by a lost civilization. A warning, yes, but also a message. A chance to learn, to understand, and to evolve. And if too many people knew about it too soon, it would be ruined by greed, by war, by power-hungry leaders who would try to possess it instead of protecting it. So they kept it secret, not to hurt the world, but to save it from itself. These scientists begged for time. Time to study, time to decode, time to understand what this ancient force wanted from us or for us. They believed that humanity was standing at the edge of something bigger than itself, something spiritual, something cosmic. But time, as always, ran out. The energy pulses became stronger. Ships started disappearing again. Instruments around the world began detecting shifts in the Earth's magnetic field that matched the triangle's rhythm. And finally, the world could no longer look away. The 2024 expedition forced the truth into the open. Footage leaked. Audio recordings spread online. Documents that were once locked in top-secret vaults were uploaded by whistleblowers tired of the lies. Suddenly, everything changed. The governments had no choice but to confirm what people had feared and known for decades. Yes, there was something beneath the Bermuda Triangle. Yes, it was ancient, it was active, and it was still growing. But by then, it was no longer a matter of hiding the truth. The world had already started asking harder questions. Why didn't you warn us? Why did you let people fly through that zone? Why did you risk lives for power? Why did you think we wouldn't understand? These questions echoed in every newsroom, every social media feed, and every conversation around dinner tables. For the first time in human history, people weren't afraid of the triangle, they were angry about the silence. But still, some remained silent. To this day, many of the original scientists who worked on early triangle research have never spoken publicly. Many died without telling their stories. And many more still live in fear that revealing too much will cost them their freedom or worse. And yet, others have begun to speak. Dr. Lena, whose name became known worldwide after the 2024 dive, has become a symbol of both courage and heartbreak. In one interview, she was asked directly, "Why didn't you tell the world sooner?" Her eyes filled with tears, her voice trembled, and she whispered, "Because I was afraid the world would break it, before we understood what it meant." That sentence became famous. It was printed on posters, on t-shirts, on protest signs held up outside government buildings. Because deep down, everyone knew she was right. We live in a world where mystery is often destroyed instead of studied, where ancient artifacts are looted, not preserved, where discoveries become weapons instead of wisdom, and where the ocean has always been seen as a barrier, not a doorway. But now, the doorway is open, and the world is watching. What lies beneath the Bermuda Triangle is no longer just a secret of the sea. It's a mirror reflecting who we are, and what we choose to do with the truth once we finally have it. Do we fear it, or do we face it? Do we silence it again? Or do we listen to what it's trying to tell us? Because maybe, just maybe, the real danger was never the triangle itself. The real danger was our refusal to see what was always right in front of us. And now that we've seen it, we can never go back, only forward together or alone. The discoveries beneath the Bermuda Triangle didn't just shake the world, they redefined it. They shattered the illusion that we understood everything about our planet. They forced us to admit something many had long suspected, but never dared to say aloud. We are not the first, and we might not be the most advanced. For centuries, we believed that history started with us, with the rise of agriculture, the building of cities, the invention of machines. We wrote books about our progress, we built museums to celebrate our discoveries, and yet, buried beneath miles of dark ocean, untouched for tens of thousands of years, were signs of a world far older, perhaps even wiser, than our own. The ruins weren't crude, they weren't broken. They were precise, symmetrical, and built with knowledge that surpassed even our most modern tools. The structures didn't rust. The crystals inside them pulsed with energy, and the messages carved into their surfaces didn't resemble any language known on Earth yet. Somehow, they felt familiar. As researchers analyzed the materials and the patterns of energy, one terrifying, beautiful truth began to emerge. These structures didn't belong to us, but they were made for us, or at least, left behind for someone like us. It was as if someone or something had been here before, a civilization that reached unimaginable heights, and then vanished without a trace. Not because of war, not because of disease, but because of a choice, or a warning, or maybe, a disaster they couldn't stop. And that forces us to ask the hardest question of all. Are we next? The discoveries under the triangle didn't just tell a story of the past. They offered a mirror to our present and a possible glimpse into our future. The same patterns we saw in their structures: obsession with energy, reliance on unstable forces, expansion without balance, mirrored the very path humanity is on today. As if the ruins weren't just relics, they were warnings. Warnings carved into the seafloor, hoping that one day we would listen, but listening requires humility, and that has never been humanity's strength. In school we are taught that humans rose from caves to empires in a few thousand years, that we conquered the wild, mastered the elements, and built a world powered by reason and science. But what if we didn't rise? What if we returned? What if civilization is not a straight line, but a circle? A cycle of growth, arrogance, collapse, and rediscovery. If that's true, then the Bermuda Triangle is not just a mystery of the present. It's a graveyard of the past and possibly a gateway to our future. A place where memories of ancient genius sleep, waiting to be awakened. A place where the earth still whispers secrets we haven't yet earned the right to understand. And perhaps that's why the ocean hid them for so long, because we weren't ready. But now that we know, we must choose. Will we repeat the mistakes of those who came before, or will we learn from them? This choice will define us, not our machines, not our cities, not our technologies. Our response to the truth will determine whether we become more than just another forgotten civilization buried beneath the waves. Scientists, philosophers, and spiritual leaders have all been shaken by these findings. For some, it confirms long-held theories about Atlantis, Mu, or Lemuri, ancient advanced civilizations wiped from history. For others, it raises the possibility that Earth has been visited before, not just by life, but by intelligence perhaps, even ourselves from a different time, a different cycle. It opens questions that science can't answer alone. What does it mean to be human? Are we the only intelligent life to walk this Earth? Or are we just the latest chapter in a book that keeps rewriting itself? The carvings discovered on the ocean structures speak of balance, of harmony, of energy that flows with the planet, rather than against it. They hint at a world where science and spirit were not enemies, but partners. A world where power was not used to conquer but to understand. We see none of that in the world today. We burn the earth. We poison the air. We dig deeper, build higher, race faster, but forget to ask why. We celebrate progress without understanding its cost. And maybe, just maybe, the triangle is trying to slow us down before it's too late, because the forces beneath it are not dead. They are alive, they are waiting. And some scientists believe they are responding to us not with anger, but with sadness, like a parent watching a child repeat the same mistake. Again and again, the strange pulses of energy that now ripple from the depths. They are increasing. The electromagnetic disturbances are no longer random, they follow patterns. Patterns that match solar activity, magnetic field changes, and even global human behavior. Some believe the triangle is reacting to us, to our wars, to our pollution, to our choices. If this is true, then the triangle is not just a place. It is a living message. A message that says, you are not alone. You were never alone. And if you want to survive, if you want to thrive, you must remember who you were before. This isn't just about history. This is about identity. The Bermuda Triangle is showing us that we've lost something. Not just knowledge, but wisdom. Not just technology, but purpose. In our rush to dominate the world, we forgot how to live with it, and now, we have a chance to remember. But time is running out. As the discoveries go public, people around the world are responding in two ways. Some are awakening, asking questions, seeking answers, searching for meaning. They feel the call in their hearts, like a whisper from the ocean saying, come home. Others are afraid. They call it lies, call it fantasy, call it fake, because the truth is too big, too strange, too threatening to everything they've ever believed. But the truth doesn't care what we believe. It just is, and the more we deny it, the louder it will become, because the triangle doesn't need our permission to reveal itself. It only needed our attention. And now that we're listening, we can never unhear it. So what does it mean for us? It means that we are living in a time unlike any other. A time where the veil is lifting, where the ocean gives back what it once swallowed, where the past and future collide in a single place deep beneath the waves. It means that we are the children of a forgotten world, and we have been given a second chance, a chance to remember, a chance to rebuild, a chance to honor those who came before, and protect those who will come after. But only if we choose wisely. The triangle has spoken. Now, it's our turn to answer. The final dive began like the others, with quiet tension, controlled breathing, and hearts pounding beneath layers of reinforced wetsuits. But everyone on board knew this one was different. This was not just another research descent. It was the last scheduled exploration before the mission was to be shut down. Funds were drying up, warnings were growing louder, equipment had begun malfunctioning more often, and deeper beneath the sea, something unexplainable had started to awaken. The team descended in silence, surrounded by nothing but black water and distant pulses from the sub-sonar. The pressure increased with every meter. The lights outside showed nothing but silence and shadows. But the deeper they went, the heavier the atmosphere became, not physically, but emotionally. It was as if the sea itself was mourning something, like it knew what was coming. Over the weeks of diving, the researchers had uncovered structures that challenged history, crystals that glowed without power, and audio whispers from the deep that made no scientific sense. But this dive, this was different. They weren't going down to observe anymore. They were going down to enter. For the first time they were going inside. The previous dives had identified a central chamber hidden beneath the largest crystal-covered structure. Its entrance was shielded by a thick field of electromagnetic energy. Nothing could penetrate it. Not cameras, not sonar, not drones. But over the past few days, the energy had weakened, as if the structure itself had sensed their presence and had chosen to allow them in. When the submersible reached the base of the structure, the crew watched in stunned silence as the entrance slowly opened, releasing a swirl of silver bubbles. No one touched anything, nothing triggered the door. It moved on its own. The ocean groaned around them, and the sub's lights began to flicker. Inside the chamber, they saw darkness, but it wasn't empty. It was waiting. As they slowly moved into the chamber, the light steadied, revealing something none of them could speak about without tears later. The ocean may be calm again. The equipment packed away. The team scattered across the world. But something inside us has changed. This story isn't ending. It's just beginning. And if you've stayed with us this far, It is because something deep inside you is stirring too, a sense that we're standing at the edge of something far bigger than ourselves. You might feel a chill, not from fear, but from recognition, because part of you knows, this wasn't just about the Bermuda Triangle, it was about what lies beneath every mystery we ignore, every silence we pass over, every strange thing we laugh off. It was about asking what else is being kept from us. What else are we too afraid to understand? The Bermuda Triangle isn't the only place on Earth that holds secrets. It's just the loudest one. But there are others. Ancient deserts, hiding lost cities, mountain caves with impossible carvings, skies filled with strange lights, signals from deep space, and ruins buried under oceans, glaciers, and even our own feet. The truth is all around us. And once you've seen it, once you've truly opened your eyes, you can't close them again. What if every mystery is connected? What if the triangle, the voices, the magnetic pulses, and the glowing crystals are just pieces of something so ancient, so powerful, that it's been whispering to humanity for thousands of years? But we were too distracted, too divided, or too proud to listen. We live in a world that teaches us to chase certainty, to fear the unknown, to dismiss anything we cannot explain. But that mindset is the very thing that holds us back, because it is in the unknown, in the mystery, where all the real answers live, and where we find something even more precious: wonder. If you're feeling goosebumps, it's not just the story. It's because you've remembered something buried deep, that childlike part of you that used to stare at the stars and ask, what else is out there? That voice that whispered, there must be more. The part that never stopped believing that Earth still holds magic, meaning, and truths waiting to be discovered. Don't silence that voice. Feed it, follow it. Let it guide you to ask bigger questions, to dig deeper, and to never accept the surface answer. Because when we stop asking questions, we stop growing, and when we stop seeking, we stop seeing. Keep watching the world around you, not just with your eyes, but with your heart. Pay attention to the moments that don't make sense. The things that give you that strange, eerie feeling, like something is off, like something is waiting just out of reach. Because often, those are the places where truth hides. In the dark corners, in the strange symbols, in the glitches and the gaps. And stay questioning. Question what you see on the news. Question what you're told in school. Question what history books avoid, what science refuses to explain, and what governments rush to silence. Not because everything is a lie, but because truth is always more complicated than it appears. And only those brave enough to question will ever find it. If the Bermuda Triangle taught us anything, it's that knowledge isn't just power, it's responsibility. The deeper we look, the more we must be willing to change. To let go of old beliefs, to make room for bigger truths. And to use what we learn not for domination, but for understanding, for peace. And maybe that's what the triangle is trying to show us. That those who came before us had everything. Intelligence, energy, technology. But maybe they forgot something. Maybe they forgot how to be human. Maybe they forgot how to listen, to feel, to connect. And that's why they vanished. Not because they weren't strong, but because they lost their way. So let us not make the same mistake. Let us learn from their silence, from their ruins, from their warnings buried in stone, sound, and sea. Let us use our curiosity not to destroy, but to build. Let us use our questions not to divide, but to unite. Let us use our discoveries not to dominate, but to remember. And remember this: you are part of this story now. You watched, you felt, you wondered. And somewhere deep inside you, a spark has been lit. Don't let it go out. Use it to ask the next question, to follow the next clue, to turn over the next stone. Because every great discovery started with one small whisper. What if? So the next time you're near the sea, and the wind picks up suddenly, the next time your compass flickers, the next time you feel watched when you're alone, remember, there are things we still don't understand, forces that defy our rules, and histories deeper than our memories. And maybe, just maybe, something is trying to reach us. Maybe we are not just explorers of the unknown. Maybe we are its chosen listeners. And if we listen closely enough, long enough, bravely enough, we just might hear the ocean whisper back, "Thank you for staying with us on this journey into the deep. You've just taken a step into a world few dare to enter." But don't stop here. Keep watching, keep wondering, keep questioning, because the truth isn't waiting to be handed to you. It's waiting to be found. By those bold enough to look, and maybe think that's you.